Yeah, how's it going? Decided I would gonna go live here quick, just to show John Buddha how to use this new Statamic site, how to develop with Statamic. And so it's mostly kind of for John and I, but I thought it might be interesting to some folks here too. So I am going to first start in Terminal, John. So I'm just going to go to where I have the project set up locally. So this is the Statamic, this is the Statamic folder, and basically we want to go to Site, and then we want to go to Themes, and then our theme is just called My Theme. Maybe I should have called it something else. Next, we want to get just that stuff that compiles Tailwind running. So let's just go yarn run watch, and this should load everything. There we go. So now Tailwind is being compiled, and I'm going to just load up Visual Studio Code to kind of show you how everything's set up here. All right, so here in Visual Studio Code, let's just go through some of the way things are set up here. First, we have under Themes, My Theme, CSS, we have Base. And Base is what we use to edit styles, and then it compiles into mytheme.css. But Base is the one that we're adding styles. So you see I've got a bunch here. You can also, with the Tailwind config stuff, I could explain this in more detail, but you can extend it. And so, for example, I've made this one, this called Tran Yellow. This is our transistor yellow. Tran Dark, it's our transistor dark. We can reference these now throughout the theme, and this is where we would extend all of Tailwind. Hey, what's up, Miguel? What's up, Tim? Thanks for saying hi. All right, so that's all working there. Let's just close a bunch of this stuff, because I want to be able to show you. So we've got site. We've got all of the content you can see is stored in kind of these. It's Markdown if you don't use Bard, but we're using the Bard editor, so it saves it in these kind of segments with HTML. And our pages are saved in the same way. So here's index, here's an about page, and all of this is configured using these YAML files. So whenever you see a YAML file, it will determine what field set we use, which is in here. We've got our field sets right here. So here's the post field set, and then what template we'll use, and the template is what I'll show you next. So let's move content down. Here we go. So we're going to move down here now. So the base template file is default, and you can see this is where we have our, header stuff, some kind of just, body tags, header tags, and I've already put some of the Tailwind classes right in here. But things get more interesting, of course, when you go down here. So homepage embed is a good example of a just a big blob of HTML that I didn't want that to be templated in the CMS. So in the CMS, you can see I have homepage and CTA. And so here's homepage, and here's CTA, right? And so whenever I want to call those in any blog post or page, I just use those. If we wanted to, we could add text here, right? So howdy. If I save this and if I preview it, you'll see that we now have that right there. So you can use the traditional, CMS stuff here if you want, but we don't want to use it. Although now, can I get rid of it? I've never had to do that. Let's see if that actually gets rid of it. So that's how that works. And what else do I have that's like that? We also have a pricing kind of blob, and that's right here. Again, I just thought it'd be easier for us to edit the HTML, and we can add in content like this if we want, and then we have this call to action blob that I've used throughout. So here's the pricing table. This is all HTML, but then this here is handled in the CMS, and then this blob here is this kind of reusable widget or whatever you want to call it. All right, and then we've got footer, head, nav. So this is where I've created this whole thing here. One thing I still need to, Adam Wadden's going to work with me on actually turning this into a hamburger menu, but that's where all of this stuff is. Oh, sweet. Talk about the devil. What do you want to use, Adam? Should we use, what do we want to use? We want to use tuple. We try to use tuple. We'll see if that works. Oh, a new version's available. Do I dare? Install and relaunch. It's working on a thing. Should have closed a few things before I went live. All right, so we'll see if Adam has time for that nav. That would be a good thing to work on. Let's try this out. I want to share this one. Can you folks hear that?
Hey there.
Wow, that is pretty magical.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Do you have this set up so that like people on YouTube can hear me talking too?
Yeah, I got my system audio going. So you're
Very
live
cool.
right now. And you can see my window here.
Perfect. Yep, I can see VS Code and your browser in the background there, so I think we're probably good.
Are you a Visual Studio Code person?
I use Sublime 99% of the time, but I've been playing around with Code more because it's got some cool features that make, especially with Tailwind, that make it a little bit nicer to use, but
Yeah.
I'm not totally used to it yet, so.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the guy that is still addicted to Dreamweaver, so
You have like that Tailwind VS Code extension installed?
Yeah, that's what I was like trying to see what I got installed here. I got, where is that?
All sorts of goodies.
Oh yeah, I got too much probably. Tailwind, CSS,
there
and
you go.
IntelliSense. Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it at first, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, it always it's popping up like, yeah, this thing
Yeah,
here.
it like shows you what everything means, and like the colors when you type them, it shows like a little square with like a preview of each color and
Yeah,
all that sort of stuff.
for someone learning it, it's really helpful.
Yeah,
And even
pretty
I
cool.
think even that stuff when I extended it, like if I use Tran, yeah, Tran yellow, it shows like the yellow in there
Yeah,
too. That's pretty cool.
yeah, man.
All
Pretty
right, so
cool.
how do we?
Make
The
it
question
work.
I asked you before was I just grabbed this is one of those components that I stole from
Yep.
Steve, and so I figured, oh, I'll bet you to put. I think what I want is I want these things to be in a hamburger menu. I'm guessing.
Yeah, so basically like everything that's down below there, we just want to like collapse that when you press that button,
Yeah.
or just
Although,
have it start collapse and click that to open it.
yeah. And so we going to need to use some JavaScript for that.
We'll have to use some JavaScript for it for sure. So,
Oh man.
so first question is with this site setup with Statamic,
Mm-hmm.
how is there any like JavaScript stuff already at all that you're using? Like, is there like a thing that compiles your site's JavaScript file or anything like that? Like, I know you're using. What are you using to compile Tailwind? Is it Laravel Mix?
To compile Tailwind, I'm using Yarn or something, right? This thing here.
Yeah, but what do you run yarn run watch, and if you open like your sidebar where all your files are,
Yeah.
file. So scroll up in this file a little bit. I kind of want to see. Okay, so see how you got that JS thing, kind of this stuff here.
Oh man, that drawing thing is so much better. If anybody that's ever helped me on one of these live streams is screaming right now because they're always like, "Oh, okay." They're always in the UK.
No,
"Oh,
no, other line, other line. No,
they're
not
like,
there.
I can
Yeah.
just tell they're putting on their best polite British person act, like, oh, just go a bit, yeah, okay, and then later they're like, God fucking damn it, that fucking thing. Anyway, so yes,
Yeah.
base.js.
So let's check out that file. I kind of want to see what's going on there right
Oh,
now.
and is this the same thing? Like, this is the one we edit, and then this is the compiled one?
I believe so. Yeah. So I kind of want to see if there's anything in there, like if that's even being used. So it's just empty right now. Now, what did it say? The file it was compiling. This is the file that it creates. This is my theme.js.
Yeah, sorry, I'm
Yeah. So pull up your webpack.mix.js file again.
oh yeah,
Quickest
sorry.
way to do this, by the way. I don't know if you've done this yet, but if you just do like Command P, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
the way to find this stuff. Okay, so where's kind of like your main template where you're like referencing this file? Because I kind of want to make sure that the JavaScript file is being pulled in there too, as
I'm
a first
guessing
step.
It's in default.
Some sort of layout or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is down here. It looks like this is being pulled in. So if we were to go to base.js
Yeah.
and just write like console.log and then in parentheses just put a string in quotes like hello. Yeah, some sort of test string. And now if you save that,
Wait,
head back to your-
is that JavaScript I just wrote?
you just wrote JavaScript. So
You want to see the one I write all the time, but I never know what I'm writing? This is the one I write. That's my
in the console when you want to edit stuff, yeah.
yeah, that's my secret. Okay, so save that.
Okay, so head back to your pricing page here and open up the dev tools. And then just make sure you're on the console tab. And then just do a refresh of the page and see if that string shows up. Perfect. So the JavaScript is running. So we have like a good base for having somewhere to put some JavaScript stuff.
Sweet.
So I think a cool way to do this that would be kind of fun would be to use Vue. Because that's how I would do it. I
This
think
is
it's
like
the easiest way, honestly.
This is like. Did you see this last project I wrote? This one here, and have you met Sam Podlegar yet?
I have seen him around. I know who
Yeah,
he is. Yeah,
he's
But
one of
I don't
those-
know if we've ever had really deep conversation. I'm
He's
sure
like one of
we've
the
chatted,
he's like
though.
one of the young. There's a bunch of young bucks, just young
Sure.
bloods running around. Anyway, he's like, well, we gotta we you should have just done this all in Vue. And I said,
Yeah, it would have
okay.
been. I mean, for me, like the threshold of when something becomes like worth doing in Vue is very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's just start with it. It'll be
All
more
right.
fun. And honestly, I think you'll be surprised at how intuitive it is. Like I think you'll feel pretty empowered when you see how
That's
straightforward it
that's
actually
exactly
is.
what Sam said. He said, no, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal, man. It's cleaner.
Yeah, you'll be like, holy shit, okay, this is awesome.
All right. So how do we get this
So a
that
little bit
going?
of boilerplate that we're gonna have to do. Not the end of the world though. So first thing, pull up your terminal and kill this watcher for a second.
You want me to kill this?
Just,
Oh,
yeah, it's just like Control C. And then what directory are you in right now?
this
You're
is
in the theme directory.
yeah.
So this is where your node modules and stuff is, right? Yeah. So just do like a yarn add view. Pretty
That's it?
sure it's just called view. Yep. And this will get view like installed.
Nice. Oh, that was pretty quick.
And then in base.js,
Doesn't this shit just give you anxiety all the time? Warning, success.
you just
warning,
become like
success.
you just become numb to it with all the npm stuff.
I
It's
don't
like,
understand. The programming is filled with OCD folks, and you've got all these things that would drive OCD people crazy.
it's just npm, man. It's you just eventually you. I mean, everyone complains about it, but you just have no choice. It always looks like it failed, but it worked. That's basically. Yeah, when it fails, it like really fails, but when it works, it just sort of fails.
It just kind of works. All
Yeah.
right. So we
So
got it
let's
going.
let's go into our base.js file here for a second.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pull up the Vue docs because it's kind of ironically, I never type a lot of this stuff from scratch. I usually am in a project where a lot of it's already just like set up. So I just want to take a little peek and make sure that, yeah, okay, things make sense. So head back to your base.js file, delete this line, and type const, so const space view, and do it with a capital V, kind of that's the convention for this type of stuff, and then equals, then type require, and then in parentheses just type view as a string, in quotes. Yeah. So what this is saying, like import view from your npm dependencies, so we kind of can do something with it.
Okay.
So where's your kind of go to your nav.html file and go to the very top of this file. This is okay, so this is just like the nav HTML snippet.
Yeah. I basically just copied and pasted
On
what
this
Steve
nav
had.
element here. Yeah, sweet. So just throw an ID of like nav on here. And then in our base.js file,
So this, when you put ID, I just need to get something. I know this is a dumb question.
yeah,
This is not a CSS based ID. This is something else?
it's the same thing. So it's just an HTML ID, right? So CSS can target an ID and you can add styles to it. And JavaScript can find the element with that ID and do stuff with it too.
I'm glad I asked that
So-
dumb question because that just always messes me up. I'm always like, what? I thought this had to do with CSS. Like it was like you've got classes and you've got IDs, and then
Yeah. And even classes don't have anything to do with, I mean, they do have something to do with CSS, but JavaScript can use them just the same. Like any sort of like attributes that you put on an element, you can query for that element based on that attribute. So you could say like in JavaScript, find me all the links that have an href that starts with slash, or find me all the SVGs that have a height of 144. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you can find things based on any of these pieces of information.
Okay.
But
That
ID is kind of the canonical way when you just have like one instance of something.
Yeah.
To just have like a really straightforward way of just grabbing that element directly.
Well, and this would always mess me up with forms because forms have IDs.
Yeah, for like labels and inputs and stuff.
Yeah, but I always thought I was like always wondering like why are we what? Because then we would like reference those later. But okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we've got an ID now.
All right, so we're going to use this ID to basically tell Vue what part of the page we want Vue to be able to like work with.
Yeah.
So if you go back to your base.js file.
So to get Vue running on here, all we did was we installed
it. Yeah, we installed it on the command line. Now we're just kind of importing it in our JavaScript so we can do something with it. And now we're just going to use this kind of variable that we've created to wire it up with that ID and be able to do some stuff.
And what's this part?
So that's just matches the name that we typed on the command line. So when we said yarn add Vue, we added the Vue library to our project, and now here we're referencing that same name to grab the code from that library so we can actually
that makes so much sense. Okay, so this is like the variable name right here, and then this part here is like require this library.
Exactly. Yep.
And we can even see it right here. My theme node modules. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay. So now create a new line.
Okay.
In here, and type a new space Vue, open parentheses, open curly bracket.
Open curly bracket. Holy.
And hit enter. And here's where we're sort of going to pass in our configuration information for Vue.
Okay.
So to start, we just want to say type EL :space, and then in a string, just type like #nav or #nav or whatever. So this is the ID that we want Vue to grab a hold of, basically, right? So this matches what we typed.
YEL.
So that's the element that we want Vue to work with.
Oh, I see. Okay. So when you say element, it's this right here.
It's this nav element and then all of its children because.
Okay. So
we're just grabbing this whole tag.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's where we're kind of activating Vue. So now type comma space or comma enter. Sorry. We're add another key here, and we'll do this just for testing. Type mounted, and then open parentheses, and then move your cursor after the parentheses, space, curly bracket, enter. Then here type console.log, and then in parentheses type this dot no string this time, this dot $, EL. So what this is going to do is it's going to instantiate Vue, bind it to our nav element, and mounted. This is like what's called a lifecycle hook in Vue. So there's different stages when Vue is sort of like booting up that you can sort of hook into and run some of your own code. So this is kind of the last one. So this is kind of saying when Vue is done, everything's all set up, it's been mounted and everything's working, run this piece of code. So we're just going to log the element that Vue is bound to just to sort of test if things look like they're wired up correctly. So if we have our watcher going on the command line, do we still have that going?
In the command line.
Yeah, so do yarn run watch or whatever. So now we should be able to refresh the page.
So before this was just watching Tailwind stuff. Oh, I see. Just loaded Vue now too. Okay.
Yeah, it'll watch everything, but usually when you install like a new library, a lot of the time you have to restart it, so it picks that up.
Yeah, so my theme, okay.
So go ahead and refresh the page, and in the console, we're hoping to see like an HTML element. Yeah, see, so here's that nav element that we bound it to.
Okay.
So we know that view is kind of attached correctly and everything's working.
So we just did that to test it out. We're like, okay, let's test this thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we don't really need this chunk of code anymore since we just kind of use that for testing. So you can delete those 3 lines.
Okay.
And now what we'll do instead is add a key, just like we did with mounted, called methods. And do an open curly bracket here. And in here is where you kind of put a list of all your functions that you want to be able to trigger by people doing things like clicking in the template and stuff.
Okay.
So here, if we make a just make like a function called handle click. So just type handle click.
Handle dot click or handle?
Nah, I mean it can be called anything we want. So yeah,
Okay.
that's totally fine. And then do 2 parentheses, like open parentheses, close parentheses. And then curly brackets.
Can you explain why does it use this convention? Because like over here we said require and then here's a string, but I see this all the time in JavaScript. Why even bother having this?
So here we're calling a function, and this is an argument that we're passing to the function. Here we're defining a function that you can call from other places, and what you normally put in here is a list of the arguments that it could accept.
Okay.
So in our case, it's not going to receive any arguments, so we don't need to put anything in there, but you do still need to just have an empty brackets there, just so JavaScript knows that it's a function and not something else.
Gotcha. So we're creating a space for something to happen, but we're not saying anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I think of a good example, then I can get into it more. But for now, just do like an open parentheses after this.
Another one like this?
Sorry, curly brackets. And enter. And then in here is basically the code that we're going to want to run whenever we call this handle click function. So for now, let's just do console.log.
Okay.
And then parentheses, and then in quotes, type like clicked or something.
Okay.
And now if you go back to your nav.html file, find that button where the hamburger menu is.
Yeah, where is that? That's a good question. How do you figure out what that is?
Just kind of like, yeah, you can, so it's going to be this button with flex item center on it. So it's this thing here.
Okay.
So with Vue, if we want to be able to run that code that we just wrote anytime someone clicks this button, all you need to do is add a new line like right in between here.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be on a new line, but because everything's kind of tight here, it's nice to put it on a new line. So hit tab so that we kind of line up with class, and then do @ click equals, then in bracket, or sorry, in quotes, type handle click. So what we're saying is anytime someone clicks this button, call the handle click function that we wrote.
Cool.
So now if you go to your browser,
Okay.
we should see something show up in the console saying that it was clicked.
Oh,
Clicked.
nice.
So every
Oh,
time you
look.
click it, that counter increments, right?
Look at this.
Yeah,
Isn't this
pretty
isn't this a game?
I mean, it could be a game to some people. Sure. It seems like a pretty boring game. So we need to do something a little bit more sophisticated than just, logging some text in the console.
Yeah.
So if you head back to the editor.
Oh, hold on. Okay.
So head back to our JavaScript file, our base.js file. And what we need to do is we basically need to keep track of whether we want the navigation to be open or closed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time we click it, we want to change is open to false if it was already open, and we want to change it to true if it was closed.
Yeah.
Just to kind of toggle it. So what we should do is add a new key, just like we kind of have methods here, but
Okay.
call it data.
Do you want me to add it here?
It's going to be at like the top level, like where these ones are. So I normally put it in between L and methods, but it doesn't really matter what order it goes in.
Okay.
So do data : then open curly bracket,
Okay.
enter, and throw a comma right here. That's why you're seeing that red squiggly line.
Okay.
And now in here is where we're just going to keep track of like any variables that we want Vue to sort of have access to. So in this case, we can have a variable like is open. So like is, then capital O open, and colon, and then type false. So we'll have this default to false. So when someone first loads the page, the menu will be closed.
Yeah.
And then what we can do is on our handle click function here,
So I just
instead
leave
of
this
doing, that's good, yeah, that part's done. So now in handle click, get rid of this console log, and instead type this dot is open. So this is just referring to like the data on the Vue instance.
This dot
so is open.
Is open, yeah.
So we're just like referencing this variable up here.
Yeah.
Then we want to say equals, and then do an exclamation mark. Then this dot is open.
This dot
So what?
is open.
So the exclamation mark means not, which kind of like inverts the variable in this case. So basically, we're saying whenever someone clicks it, set is open to be the opposite of what it was before. So if is open is false, not false is going to be true, and if it's true, then not true is going to be false. Does that make sense?
Okay, so here we just set it to
We're setting the starting point for the menu to be
false.
To false.
And then here on the click, we say
set it to the opposite of whatever it is.
Gotcha.
Just toggle it.
That
right?
that's what this here is doing.
Yeah, you can think of this as basically like the long form version of this would be if this dot is open is true, then we want to say this dot is open should be false. Else, if this dot is open equals false, now we want to say this dot is open should be true. So that's kind of the super verbose way of saying the same thing. So
Gotcha.
if it's true, set it to false. Otherwise, if it's false, set it to true. So this is just like the shortest possible way, essentially, of writing this. And this is how any JavaScript programmer would write this. No one would write it this way.
Yeah, that is helpful seeing all that. Although even that is, it takes my little tiny brain a little bit to jump around in that. But I get it. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, you can take control back because it's not as, you're not going to learn as much if I just type it for you. Okay, so now head over to our nav.html file. And right now we have this is open thing, right? But that's not really controlling if the nav is actually open or not. We have to do something based on that information. So we want to basically take the actual drop-down section and hide that based on if is open is true or if it's false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is find that section, which I kind of think it's probably this div. So why don't we go to the browser and use the inspector and see if we can find what element it is that we actually want to hide.
So, I mean, there's two divs, right? There's this div here.
And that's, yeah, so that's just for this stuff. And then if you
And
go
then-
up to,
Yeah, and then there's
I'm thinking it's,
this one here is that's this one here, yeah.
yeah, so just for fun, try in the styles here, just click in there
Mm-hmm.
and type display and then tab none. Okay, so that's kind of what we want, right?
Yeah.
So we know that if we hide that div, then we kind of get the result that we want.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go to VS Code, here's that div right here. So just like we kind of had this @click thing, which is kind of special view syntax for sort of communicating with view,
Mm-hmm.
we can sort of conditionally render this using another special view thing called vShow. So just like you have class equals, right here, type v-show equals.
v-show equals.
And then in quotes, type is open. So basically we're saying only show this div if is open is true.
Okay.
And if we did this right, we actually should we should have enough in place for this to basically be working now.
Really? Okay. Let's refresh the page.
So see how it's closed by default right now, which it wasn't before?
Oh my God.
So if you click it again, done.
It's working. And if I do this, I'll see the actual events in here, or no? No.
You
Oh, because we're
can-
not logging it.
Yeah, we're not logging anything, but there is a Vue DevTools extension that you can install that lets you kind of see more what's going on with Vue specifically if you want.
Sweet.
But that's basically it. So
Holy damn it.
the only thing I would do differently than what we have is if you go back to the VS Code, instead of calling this handle click, I'd probably call it something like toggle. A little bit more clear what we actually are trying to do. And then you have to make that same renaming change over here. So instead of calling the method handle click, we would just call that toggle as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
You
So
know
it's
what
pretty
was so
simple.
oh, that was so helpful, because sometimes I'll see other people's code and I'll see something like this and I won't know what that is. But now that we went through that whole thing, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so it's about as simple as it gets in terms of, doing this with regular JavaScript would be a lot more, you'd be a lot more in the weeds trying to make all this stuff work. You wouldn't be able to just say like on click, toggle this div, you know? You'd have a bunch of random document.addEventListener click garbage that's just not as expressive. But
This is
here
like,
we're just sort of keeping track of, is it open or is it closed? This is how it changes that, and then we just wire that up in the template to the button that we want to toggle that. So then you're done.
sweet. So I just have to add to my instructions here.
I don't think you don't have to add anything here, because remember we were talking on Telegram before about how these instructions aren't really Tailwind specific, right?
Yeah.
This is for like anything installed from npm. So when you run yarn now in this project, it's going to install Tailwind and Vue. And when you run yarn run watch, it's going to compile Tailwind, and it's also going to compile Vue. And anything else you install will just automatically get handled by those two commands too.
So
there's no special instructions for Vue here. Really, this instruction should just be like installing the JavaScript and CSS dependencies. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's kind of general.
So this isn't really about Tailwind at all. This is just, oh, wait a second, hold on. How do I edit this?
Yeah.
So I should call this, where is it? Installing just JavaScript and CSS dependencies.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then I'll just put, other notes.
Yeah, perfect.
Beauty, man.
Done
That was
deal.
awesome. Anything else I should know?
Um, I don't know. Like for this in particular, probably nothing too much. Actually, oh, see how everything's hidden right now?
Oh
Yeah, we
yeah.
still have some work to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, things are going to get a little bit more complicated. So, on like desktop sizes, we always want to show all of those links.
Yeah.
So, we can't simply just say, "Oh, if the menu's closed, hide it," because then if someone closes it on mobile and expands the screen, now they're gone and they can't bring them back.
Yeah.
And now they're just permanently gone here, right?
Yeah.
So, if we go to the code, we kind of have to do a little bit of a tweak to how we have this done. So all of our changes only have to happen in the HTML.
Okay.
So this vShow thing is great if you want to hide it on all screen sizes.
Yeah.
But in our case, we only want to hide it on small screen sizes. So we can't just use view to say show or hide this entire div. We're going to basically use view to add Tailwind classes based on this instead.
Yeah.
So what I would do is get rid of this vShow thing completely for a second. And in its place, type colon class equals. And here we're going to type some code that basically we're going to use view to add classes. So you can have a colon class and a regular class. These are kind of the classes that are always going to be there. And this is when you want to use view to only add classes under certain situations.
Colon class invokes view.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just kind of look at what we have here and think about it for a second. So basically we're saying, so MD flex is saying use display flex on medium size screens and above.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying display block on small screens. So what I would do is what we actually want to do is we want to toggle between block and hidden based on this is open variable.
Mm-hmm.
So delete block from here because we don't want it to always be block anymore. We have to make it only be block if it's open.
Yeah.
So then here in these quotes now, type is open space question mark and then space and then in single quotes.
Oh,
So you got to do like single quotes inside the double quotes.
Yeah.
Now type block here. And then after the single quote, throw a space and then a colon and then another pair of single quotes and type hidden. So this is a little cryptic, but basically what this expression is called like a ternary, which is basically like a compact if statement. So here we're like asking this question. We're asking like, well, is it open?
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing on the left-hand side of the colon is what to do if this is true. And this is what to do if this is false.
Oh, cool.
So if it's open, then we want it to be display block. Otherwise, if it's not open, then we want it to be hidden. So this MD Flex class is going to override both of these so that on desktop, it's always going to be display flex, which triggers the same property as hidden or block. They all affect the display property.
Yeah.
So even if it's hidden on small screens, it'll still be open on big screens. So if we go and refresh, with any luck, this
By the way,
fix.
this is so cool to understand what's going on here. I know none of this is a big deal to you, but this is like, to understand what this is so exciting. Is this open? If so, show this. If not, show this.
Exactly.
If I was going to read this, I would be like, if this is open, then have a block and then hide it or something. Like
it's definitely pretty cryptic. Like this, like arbitrary symbol. You know, it's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you
Totally
want me to
not
refresh
intuitive,
this.
but so if you refresh, with any luck, everything's visible again.
Yes.
And now if you shrink it down, and then hit the button, so all that stuff still works.
Nice.
Now leave it open, and then expand it. So everything's there, and if you go back down, it'll sort of remember that it was open before, so it should stay open. If you go shrink down to the mobile view, I mean.
Oh.
Because, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it just kind of remembers wherever it was, right?
Oh, cool. Sweet, man.
So you can even, if you inspect with DevTools.
Inspect what? Inspect anything?
Yeah, just anything in that general area. And then see this div, right? This is kind of the one that we were tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
So shrink the window down back to the kind of the mobile layout. Okay, so look at this div here. And now click this button, and you should see block change to hidden there.
Nothing's working now.
Oh, what? Is the whole thing busted?
I don't think so. It's working now. I just refreshed.
Okay. So where's that div?
Where's that div?
Yeah, it's pretty cramped in here.
What do you want to see? You just want to see these?
Scroll down a little bit.
How come I can't?
A little bit more. Maybe not here. Let's just let's pull this up a little bit so we have a little bit of, you can kind of see what's going on. Okay, so this div. See how there's like hidden at the end? And now when we click this, it switches to block at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Then hidden, block, hidden. So
Nice.
that's the code that we wrote. It's just kind of changing that one class, and then all the classes that are just always there, they just kind of get merged together.
So this is for like people that are using Tailwind. They're going to be using stuff like this all the time, because if you can use Vue to modify CSS like this, that's pretty powerful just in itself. Like, what else? That gives you a lot of that gives you a lot of runway.
Totally, yeah. You don't need to be able to do a lot of really fancy stuff to be able to get a lot of useful stuff done.
to get the functionality.
You don't need to know much more really than like what we covered here today to be able to be pretty dangerous with Vue and Tailwind for sure.
Yeah. That's crazy that like all we had so many weird
it's like
things.
what? It's like 12 lines of JavaScript that we wrote.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything is working off of this, and then everything else is just in here.
What we did here, like this 100% fits in a tweet. You know what I mean? Like this is, it's like 60 characters or something.
That is so good.
Yeah,
Sweet,
pretty
man.
neat.
Cool.
Cool.
I want to end this video right now just so that we have it all buttoned up in one nice little package here. So yeah, I'm gonna end this right now. Jason Harrison says Adam's creating a monster. That's right. That's right. This is the now we're dangerous. Remember when I used to say that you used to scare the hell out of me because you were a developer that understood marketing? But just wait till you guys see what the marketing assholes do once they know a little programming. Oh man, it is over. I hope you like pop-ups. I'm gonna create pop-ups like you've never seen.
Awesome.
All right, folks. Thanks, Adam. Everyone, go check out Tailwind. How much longer till we get the Tailwind components marketplace?
Me and Steve are gonna start working on that like pretty hardcore in about 2 weeks. So I'm about to start recording this Tailwind video course tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm gonna release that hopefully the week after next. And then we're gonna be hammering on the component stuff.
Sweet. And how do people get the course? Is it just they just sign up here?
So if you just see on the left in the navigation when you scroll down, there's a screencasts link that's kind of there to bait people into it, thinking that they already exist.
Oh yeah.
And that just sends them to this kind of landing page, so you can
Sweet.
sign up here if you want to get an email when that's ready.
Sweet. I'm in. It's gonna be free,
Awesome.
right?
Yep, totally free.
Beauty. All right, man. Yeah, let me know when those components get going, because I need to replace I just grabbed this from someone else's Tailwind something or other. But yeah, it's things like pricing grids.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of stuff I just want to be able to copy and paste and tweak.
Oh yeah, it's going to be all there for you.
Beauty. All right. Thanks, man.
Developers are going to be out of jobs. Designers too.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Okay. Goodbye.
See ya.